So here's part 2. I will put the link for part 1 in the description below. What part 1 was about. I discussed what is forgiveness and what it does not mean. I talked about reasons why you need to forgive. I talked about what unforgiveness is and what breeds unforgiveness, and I told a good part of my story because I'm using my marriage, my 24-year marriage, as my example to help illustrate how we get to unforgiveness, why it's important to forgive. When someone constantly asks you why, in my case, my situation, I found that the constant questions of why was to manipulate. Why did it take you an hour at the grocery store? Why? Why did you need to talk with your mom? You just talked with her a week ago. Why do you want to go visit your family? You just saw them 4 months ago. And I was never told, no, you can't do something. But anytime that question why came out, there was an expression. There was an energy. There was a, like he was just so confused. What? Why? Explain yourself. Why would you need to do that? And the expression says, you're an idiot. You need to rethink this. Why? All the time why. So just watch out for whys. If I had a conversation on the phone with a friend or a family member, you can bet he was there listening. He had to hear every part of it. It was, why'd you say such and such? Why did you say blah, blah, blah? What were you meaning when you said that? I had thought he was a good dad. That was part of what attracted me. He really seemed like he cared for his boys. And I'm sure that he did. I often wonder, what is it I did that made him go from everything seeming good to suddenly feeling the need to become obsessed with me and control me and keep tabs on me? He started putting himself before his boys. He started putting me before his boys. There was an important event he missed for the oldest son because we were arguing, and he would not leave and go to it without me. And we were arguing, seriously arguing. That was way more important than going and seeing his son, and something that was important to his son. As I said, a large part of our problems, I do believe, I can take it on myself. I was young and dumb and didn't know what I wanted, what I needed. And apparently his needs were, he needed someone who was 100% focused on him at all times. His needs came before everything else, everything. And that's not me. So I was always trying to stand up for myself. That's what created the arguments, because I was trying to say, no. One thing I've learned about myself is I need my alone time. It's not because I want to do anything wrong. I enjoy my alone time just like it's like air. I mean, I gotta have it. I need it. I don't want someone up my butt all the time. I don't want to be up someone's butt all the time. And I hate to make out like he was wrong for needing that, because I know there are women and men out there who crave that fully connected feeling with another person, to where like you just don't even know where the one person ends and the other one begins. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. But what is wrong with it is when you try to force that on someone else, and when you cannot let the other person be their own person, when you find fault with them. The one thing I said all the time, and I think it came from the movie Bambi, Thumper said it: if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. I said that so many times, and it was ignored. That was the last month we were married. I said it many times that last month, over and over. If you can't say something nice, just don't say anything at all. Please, just don't. it just went in one ear and out the other. Something else I've come to realize that I think is really, really important is we were a bad match. I think it comes down to something as simple as that. We were a bad match. That's why it's so important to make a good match for a relationship, partnership, marriage, whatever. If you're not a good match, just don't do it. Don't do it. Save yourself, save your whole families. Because our issues didn't just affect he and I. They affected all of our children. They affected our parents. We both had good parents. I have good siblings. He had good siblings. I loved my mother-in-law and father-in-law. I loved my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Funny people, just funny, make you laugh. And my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were awesome. I mean, you just didn't say one name without the other. They were just such a unit. Their relationship was something to envy. Not in a bad way, but just, I mean, you're happy for them, but you envy it. Like, man, what am I doing wrong that I can't have that? That kind of envy is what I'm talking about. My husband and I separated 2 times, and it was always full of drama. It was always ugly. I always had to be the one to leave. He just, there was a craziness there during those times. And of course, you know, I would go back because I would make excuses for it. Well, it's because he loved me so much. Well, it's because, you know, going through a second divorce, you know. I felt bad putting him through a second divorce. I felt horrible putting the boys through a second divorce. I didn't want to put my daughter through a divorce. I did not want her to come from a broken home. So no one really understands. I had so many reasons for going back. None of them, they were valid, but they weren't the right reason. You know, fear of how am I going to support myself and her? How are we going to deal with this, you know, child support and visitation, and where am I going to live? And so many fears, what people would say. And after he would get over the craziness after a while when I would talk with him, and he was so good at saying the right things. You know, he seemed to genuinely feel remorse and genuinely want to fix it and genuinely want to do better. And, you know, because I loved him, I wanted to believe him. When we love someone, we want to believe them. So we ignore that little part of ourselves, our intuition that's saying, back up. No. So after our last separation, my daughter she was grown by then, married herself, pregnant. He probably treated me good maybe 3 years. And you know, that's a really long time to do it right. And what that taught me was when he started treating me bad was he knew how, and he chose not to. So that was like, okay, I get it now. It's a choice, and he's choosing not to. By that point, I didn't think the man even liked me. Forget love. He didn't even act, I mean, I was pretty sure he didn't even like me. I was to the point I didn't like him. I didn't like who he'd become. I didn't like who I was becoming at all. I had a dream one night, and in the dream, I was running. I was running on a dirt road, and I was running as hard and fast as I can. You know, that kind of running you do where you are gasping for air, like you know you're going to fall over any moment. And I was running because I was scared of something behind me. At the beginning of the dream, I'm scared of something. And I come around a corner, and I see on the road in front of me, driving away from me, this big box moving van. And in the back, the door was rolled up, and I had an impression of my family and friends. I don't remember seeing specific faces or exactly who that was. I just remember thinking it's family and friends, and I'm running towards them. And they have their hands outstretched to me, like they're encouraging me, like, come on, and they're gonna help pull me in this. And the faster I ran, the further away it got from me. And I knew I wasn't going to reach it. And I'm starting to hear someone breathing behind me. I know they're going to catch me. I know it's coming. And I turn around, and it's my husband. And I was scared of him. I don't know how to describe what happened in the dream, but I just all at once spread my arms and took off, like gliding, not flapping my wings or anything. I just took off, soaring, and I flew over the moving van, and I flew over hilltops, and I was gliding down through, doing swoops and valleys, and oh, that was the most amazing feeling I have ever had in my life, waking or asleep. I didn't need a counselor to tell me what that dream was saying. In our previous 2 separations, I had a couple of very close friends and close family members that were very, very concerned that we would end up a statistic. It would be a murder-suicide. They really, really thought he would take me out and then take him out. That's how crazy it got. And hey, the TV's full of it. I did not give credit to it. I did not believe them because I didn't feel it the first 2 times, but I can tell you the 3rd time I left, that was in my mind, and I knew I was going to do everything in my power to never be alone with him after that. And I didn't, ever, after I left the 3rd time. I grew up with horses. I grew up showing Tennessee walking horses. As I got older, it moved to quarter horses. So when our daughter was like 5, we got her first pony. Well, when she got to the age of 8, she wanted to learn barrel racing because her friends did that in 4-H. So we started doing some research. We ended up getting her a horse, barrel horse. We ended up getting lucky and finding mentors to help us, an older couple that had a lot of experience with it, and they were so tremendously helpful. And we had a really good time because not only did she learn, but we learned. I really studied. I mean, I studied and studied every magazine article I could find, everything on the internet I could find. We went to competitions, and I would watch every single horse and critique how they went into the barrel, how they come out of the barrel. I was just so into the teaching part of it. Learning the teaching part of it. I also really started wanting to learn the bloodlines that were the best. And to help you understand what I mean, if you go on YouTube and just in the search bar put riderless barrel horse or riderless cutting horse, you will see these horses that it's been bred into them. It's in the bloodline. It's no different than working dogs, breeding that into them. There is an instinct there that you can take even further with training, but it's already in there, and it's hugely helpful. And I found a bloodline that I absolutely loved, Designer Red. And so we started watching, horses for sale. I really wanted to try to find that bloodline, and we were so lucky to find there was a local auction where there was going to be this 2-year-old red. And we got him and took him home, and he was cold-backed as hell. My ex started riding him, and one thing about barrel racing, it is helpful because it all happens so fast that sometimes when you're the one riding, you don't see what you do wrong. You don't see where you need to make your corrections. So, our training and working the horses to get better, and for us to learn, them to learn, we would do it as a family together. We would tell him, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that, you need to correct this, and it worked good. It worked good. He and Red, they got better and better every time, and it was great to see that improvement, to know that you're on the right track when you see their times. The clock doesn't lie. You know when they're getting better. And the following year, I had sold my horse, and my husband wanted to get Red's younger half brother, which the local people had that we'd bought him from. So we ended up getting him. So then we had, the two half brothers, and he started, riding him, knowing that by me riding Red, that would increase, or make faster times, because weight does make a difference. And he was nearly twice my size, so Red and I were able to knock like a full second off of what he and Red run. So he started riding Finn, and Red became mine. And that last year before I left, in the winter, he had to take a job in another state. And so he was gone through the week and home on weekends. And I had to quit the job where I was working so I could be home and take care of everything, start packing, because we were going to be moving. So, my routine was every single morning, and I'd bring the horses in. I would take turns, Red and Finn, I would ride one every single day. They each got a day off. So, and it was an hour of conditioning, training. We had wooded trails that we had cleared over the years. We had like 100 acres. The trails were just awesome. Uphill, downhill, wind around. That was one thing we did that we enjoyed together, was clearing those trails. And that became my favorite thing, was conditioning those horses and working on Finn's training for him while he was gone. So when he came home on weekends, we could go to competitions, and, Finn was keeping up and improving all the time. And Red and I kept getting better. Our state finals were July 4th weekend that year, and we went to state finals, and all I wanted to do was run a buckle. I had never won a buckle. A buckle that was my symbol that my training was doing good, that I was doing a good job. I was improving. Buckle wasn't even first place. Buckle was second place, but I wanted the buckle, and I ended up getting the buckle. I also won $600, but I was so excited about the buckle, I just walked out and forgot the $600 until they reminded me to go back. You would have thought that would have been a really good weekend for us, but it wasn't. We fought like cats and dogs. I can't even tell you now what about. Doesn't matter. That's just, we were to the point. Two miserable people. I never had to deal with physical abuse. That weekend, I'm pretty sure he wanted to, but when our daughter was a baby, he'd gotten mad at me one time. I don't remember why. And back when we had cordless phones, we didn't have cellular phones back then, cordless phone, and he reared back and threw that phone at me, and I was holding our baby. And all I remember, and I'm sure I don't have the wording right, but all I remember was basically telling him, if you want a divorce, don't miss next time. Because that's you'll get a divorce. I'll get my divorce. I will get my divorce if you hit me. So I think he knew that was my line in the sand. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he wanted to hit me that weekend. But I gotta admit, I was to the point I wanted to hit him. I imagined smashing him in the face. My final straw. He was mowing the pastures one weekend. And we had it wasn't a huge farm tractor, but it was a medium-sized farm tractor. And the grass was so high, he didn't see the creek bank, and he rolled the tractor. The tractor rolled and ended up upside down in the creek. And it should have killed him. And I did not see it happen. I was in the house, and he came walking in, and he's dripping wet. He's minus a shoe. His hat was gone. He didn't have his glasses. And he's shaking, and I just rolled the tractor, and he was in shock. I don't think it was my first thought, but it was one of the thoughts I had there that let me know I needed to be gone, because it was, what's it going to take to kill him? And normal people kill each other. They're shocked. But I can see why it happens now. You just get to a point where your bitterness and your anger and your hatred just builds. And you don't even want to look at that person. You want to hurt them. Yeah, not only do you not want to look at them, you want to hurt them. And that wasn't me. It changes who you are. Unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, feelings towards each other, it changes who you are. That's why it's important to take care of it. That's why it's so important. After that July 4th weekend, he'd be gone through the week, and all would be good for me. But then come Friday, I'd start getting sick to my stomach. I'd be sick to my stomach because I knew he was coming home, and I didn't want to deal with him. I didn't want to deal with the arguments. I've already mentioned the couple that mentored us. So now I get to the point where it's time for me to leave, and my daughter had just had our first granddaughter. So she had a really difficult birth and had some problems. So in the mornings I would take care of the horses, and then I would go over and help her. Not every day, but almost every day. And there was one night I had to go spend the night with her. She ended up having to go back in the hospital for a surgery. And my ex, just constant bitching and complaining that I was helping her. She needed to do it herself. She had a husband, and how dare I go over and spend the night there? I needed to leave them alone. So I started packing my clothes. I really thought, because he was to the point he didn't like me, I thought he'd be relieved too. You know what? Let's just do this. There's no kids to fight over. There's no child support to work out. You know, it's Ohio, 50-50. Sell the assets. You take what you want. I take what I want. And 50-50, you know. He had his horses. I had mine. No big deal. That's what I thought. Steve Harvey said, one of his quotes, I love Steve Harvey, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll do something to make a change. When you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired. Another quote from who knows where, but it had a huge impact on me, was, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than your fears, you'll act to make a change. And boy, that's just gold right there. You need to write that down. That is really good, because it's true. It is true. You will listen to people complain and complain, and not necessarily even about a relationship, but oh, who knows, their job. They complain constantly about their job, but they won't do anything about it. But you know what? It'll get to a point where the pain becomes greater than whatever, you know, their fears of the unknown, I guess. I will tell you, we had a farrier is a blacksmith. They are they're who takes care of your horse's feet, and every horse person knows no foot, no horse. So they're very important, and we had an awesome one. He was absolutely outstanding. He'd been our farrier, I believe, for 12 years, and I held that man on a pedestal. I still do. He understands, still does, still working, understands the biomechanics of a horse like no other. Veterinarians would call him about foot issues. That is how good he was. He grew up with them. He's still raising barrel racing horses now. I had a huge respect for him. And one of the last times he came there, maybe a month or so before I left, or a month and a half, I don't know, he always made the next appointment while he was there. And I told him, I said, I don't know whether we'll be here to take care of this, because I'm not going to be here. And he was familiar with our problems. He had been there through the other separations, and he got really, really worried and said, I saw the crazy, miss. You really need to take care of yourself and be careful. He started calling me every week just to check on me. And or if the horse threw a shoe, you know, because they didn't always go from this time to that time. If they threw a shoe, he was so good to come put it back on, because you can't keep training and you can't compete without the shoes. I mean, there are barefoot horses, but for the most part, ours had to have shoes on. So he would always just check on me. How are you doing? Just checking. You left yet? No? Okay, well, you keep me posted. Okay. He was a good guy. My husband was one who checked the phone bill, and he saw that this guy had called. And the rage in his voice, ooh, needless to say, I packed very fast, and I only took the clothes I absolutely had to have. So here's where I want to give a little side note piece of advice that if you are even considering divorce, leaving your partner, whatever, I'm going to tell you, take everything that is yours with you. Take it. Find someone to help you take it. Take it, because there's no guarantee you're going to get it. The courts aren't going to get it back for you. And until those divorce papers have been served, they can do whatever they want. And, you know, because my husband controlled everything we had was in his name. The horses were in his name. Our vehicles, my car was in his name. Our home, everything was in his name. The bank accounts. And it never entered my mind I would need to take my horse. I didn't think he'd do that to our daughter. I mean, Red was 6 by this time, I think, and we were, you know, we had conversations about, you know, because we just had a new granddaughter, you know, by the time she's ready to ride, Red will be the perfect age. My husband hid for 2 months so that he wouldn't get served. And in that time, he managed to sell my horse. He managed to sell the farm equipment. He managed to take my car from me. He managed to clean out the bank accounts. He managed to ruin my clothes. He managed to trash. I'm assuming he trashed it. It's gone. I had made a scrapbook for my sister for, I don't know whether it was 30th birthday, 25th. It had pictures from when we were kids, our wedding pictures, her wedding pictures, my wedding pictures, lots of family pictures, and I had spent so much time and made it, it did. I made it so nice. And I had given it to her, and I had borrowed it back because I needed to make some copies of a few of the pages. That's a big lesson right there. And you talk about anger, and you talk about bitterness, and you talk about resentment. Yeah, those just keep building. I have to remind myself, hurt people hurt people. He was hurting. I remind myself of that. That's how I'm getting to forgiveness. Take what's yours. Take what you want. Plan way better than I did. Don't talk to anyone else, because all that does is muddy the waters. It just makes it worse. I can remember telling my daughter, I wish I'd never talked to him. And she said, Mom, if it didn't look like you had someone else, he wouldn't have left you alone. At least this way, he went on to other people. And yeah, he sure did. I did start dating the farrier. I moved in with the farrier. He was an awesome man. My ex, during the divorce process, moved in with his ex. I couldn't stay at the house because I couldn't trust my ex to leave me alone. I didn't trust to be there alone. There was no cell service there, and he had shut off the phones. So he had moved in with the ex's, or the farrier's ex-girlfriend. The night I left him, I went to my daughter's. Still had the animals to take care of. Was going to try to figure out what the heck we were going to do about that. I just knew I couldn't be at the house when he got there. And he ended up showing up at my daughter's house that night, drunk. And I had a hybrid vehicle that he yanked the power cord out of. It had to be towed to be fixed. When it was towed to be fixed, he took it. Took me 3 or 4 or 5 months to get my car back. So there I was living with my daughter and new baby and son-in-law. Luckily, I love my son-in-law. Anyway, So then I get my car back. I'm kind of telling things out of order here just a little bit, but I gotta say this about getting, while we're talking about the car. When I had to go to court, of course, to get my car back, but my dad warned me, you know, that car's going to have a tracking device on it when you get back, because he'd already tracked my phone. And I'm like, no, he's not going to put a tracking device on it. Oh yeah, he is. So I babysat for my daughter through the week, and I stayed with a couple who are like my second parents. I stayed with them on the weekends, and sometimes I would go back and stay there in the evening so that my son and daughter-in-law could be alone with the baby. So I had left her house and had to go meet my girlfriend, and we met at a local McDonald's. I don't know how to book hers, or there was something I had that was hers, or she was giving me a book to read. I'm not clear on the details. Anyway, all we did was we stopped there at McDonald's, and I left and went to my friend's. An hour later, I had to go meet her again because of something we had forgotten. So, you know, it was only a couple miles down the road. So I hop in the car, go get her, come back. I no sooner get back and I get a text message from my ex that one of my friend's neighbors had called and said I had a man in my car that I was taking to my friend's house. I didn't have a man in my car. So that was like, if there's a way to test it again. So what we come up with was, my girlfriend lived like 2 miles from a hotel. So I met her there one day and left my vehicle in the parking lot. She picked me up. We went to her house, which is 2 miles down the road. And I'm not kidding you, within like 10, 15 minutes, I get a phone call, or I get a text message. That's what it was. I got a text message from my husband wanting to know what I was doing in a hotel. All I said, thank you. That's all I needed. We knew at that point. So I had to go back. I had to go back to Google, find out, okay, where are we going to find this thing? So I did find that the batteries for these tracking devices, these units, were very expensive. So unless you had access to the car to be able to change out the batteries, it would be a problem for him. So the easiest thing, the best tracking device that would work, would be ones that were connected directly into the electrical system of a vehicle. Called the dealership. I show up. I explained to the service manager, look in the fuse box. Start there and just follow it. And within about 15 minutes, he called me and said, Mrs. We owe you an apology. We have found the GPS.